And on that point, do you think there's going to be an increase or a decrease in the adoption and the delivery of new enterprise technologies?
I mean, you mentioned a statistic before about not digitally transforming, leading. I mean, you look at there's business after business that's going out of business because they're not digitally transforming. But I think it's doing it for a purpose. Interesting IoT changing some of the implications for how, blue collar working, clean air filters, smart city kind of applications, changing how automotives, making sure that you're only going back to the garage. Why go to the garage for a simple software upgrade when it can be delivered over the air? So I think, technology's going to have to, new technologies, whether it be blockchain, IoT, big data analytics, is going to have to come in for a couple of reasons. One is the consumer demands it. They just, I take all this stuff and consume it all. Now, why shouldn't I do it from my banking, from my bank, or from my logistics company, but also they'll demand it internally. So you need to create that work that enables more remote working, that enables sort of gig employees to do their thing, that gives them a secure environment. So I think it's coming two ways. I don't think it's a choice, you have to do it. But I don't think it's necessarily a technology specific thing, because it has to be built around what you're looking to achieve as well.
But this modern technology and how easy is then to integrate, even if there are solutions from different third parties, is what is creating is more and more very granular propositions and granular companies that are very specialized on one specific function, or sometimes even one specific step in a process. And that is now possible because their technology, API-based and cloud-based software as a service, allows for that. So one recent example in Santander is the new onboarding for SME lending, for instance. In the past, this was very much paper-based, and perhaps we call a couple of partners like Experian for the incredible history and someone else from customer due diligence. Now we might be calling 30 to 35 different fintechs or third parties to do the digital signature, to validate the document, to access the company's house.
From anywhere in the world.
Anywhere. Even government organizations, HMRC does have an API that you can pull out the VAT returns quarterly so that you can analyze the business figures and how they are doing. And then there's a fintech that allows you to, once you pass the financial statements, allows you the forecast and compare with the competition. So there's so much to do because of the technology. So to your question,
it enables it.
There are going to be more and more because there is a more granular and a specialization in that.
And I think we'll start seeing a huge amount of that going into the non-traditional, more blue collar, more industrial spaces where it's kind of been forgotten about a lot of the time. A lot of stuff that in the professional services world has been there for a very long time. That's starting to go into blue collar. Actually, what's interesting is it's then being able to almost skip a generation of technology and go straight to stuff that's really, really good and really usable, rather than kind of going through that painful, not very user experience designed, focused capability. But I think we are seeing huge amount of technology going into the world of employee-facing technology, be that supporting, workers in warehouses, supporting financial services, whatever it is. There's a lot of new technologies going in.
Quick last question is: do you think technology implementations are going to become more successful or less successful?
That's good.
Well, I mean, I guess as someone that delivers it, there's no doubt that yes, of course. No, I think without doubt we're far better at delivering agile networks than we were 4 or 5 years ago. I think the technology is better understood. What you're trying to achieve is better understood. And I actually think there's more receptiveness to it from the CEOs. Before, IT was divorced completely from, I don't need to know about what's going on over here. Now, you're explaining it in a business way. So I think, yes. However, of course, that's the status quo. But technology is changing at such a pace, and new entrants are coming in from everywhere, which is an opportunity and a threat. So yes, I think we're better at doing from our perspective. We definitely see that we're better, and it's getting more replicable, and it's getting more delivery, and it's getting more projects on time, etc. But for sure, what's around the corner?
That's it.
And it's as Felipe said, that because things are smaller now, we're seeing lots and lots of small deliveries, which I think by and large, from my experience, are more successful. We're seeing far fewer big heavy rollouts of a 3-year project that just appears on everybody's desktop with no real purpose often. So that changing nature of delivery, the changing nature of software being delivered, the fact that companies can do a lot of this themselves now. They are starting to develop technologies themselves. I know Santander does a lot of that, as well as working with partners. So the whole nature of the way that we deliver technology changes. It's then kind of harder to say, well, is that more or less successful because you've got far more projects.
Yeah.
More of them are designed to fail early, to learn stuff and experiment.
And technology.
And then, but that's not the same as spending 10 years building an ERP system for it to fall over on day one and it falls flat. It's a different.
Actually, technology helps on that, because newer technologies can provide you with better monitoring, proactive maintenance. So you are constantly monitoring your systems, your applications for any sign of potential failure in the future, and you can act on that. There's a tricky bit on the question though, because as there is so much technology in place and there is so many things interconnected, the scary thing is that there could be that weak spot.
How do you maintain
that? If it fails, perhaps the impact is such a big, at the big scale. Now, if in the banking sector now, the regulator is very worried about, everyone is moving to Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure. What if it fails? Or are you telling me that it's impossible that they fail? So it creates that single point of failure that if it fails, even if it's a very robust place, the consequences could be far bigger than in the past. But in general, the newer technology is more proven, more resilient, and it provides you with more mechanisms to see it, so that you can monitor it, so that you can act on it.
And I think just one other thing that I guess we've got spent more and more time, which was a byproduct. It wasn't really about delivering a project per se, but is just the kind of regulatory changes that you see in the markets now, certainly in things like IoT or GDPR. This is something that wouldn't necessarily be an IT requirement, but now you're having to deliver. But again, the technology and the agility within, you need to maybe store and compute and mine data near a source or in a certain geography. Well, that can be done with a cloud-based infrastructure. So, again, the technology gives you more choice. But that's not to say that things can come up that are going to consume quite a lot of management thought and time to get through.